Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith, my kitchen. Um, if you're new, welcome. Glad you found me. Hope you find something of interest on my channel. We talk about all kinds of cool stuff. And we do some cooking, some baking. I'm working on pronouncing baking. I noticed in some of my past videos it sounds like I say bacon, which I do, because we do some bacon. Yeah, but it's not bacon, the meat. It's baking, like cupcakes and cookies. I just all kinds of stuff. Basically, you guys just get to hang out with me and try new things. And if you're returning, awesome. Glad you came back. Means you're getting something out of this and I'm doing something right. So tonight's Wednesday. Thought we'd make some chicken noodle soup. And it's from scratch. This is a new recipe. I mean, I've made chicken noodle soup probably a dozen times over the years. But Chris also makes pretty mean chicken noodle soup. Chris is my wife, if you're new. There's also Sarah, my middle daughter, and Abby, my youngest daughter. We all still live here. We also have two older children, Taylor, my oldest daughter, Brian, my oldest son, who are grown and out doing adult-like things. But tonight, chicken noodle soup. One thing about it, if you wouldn't be so kind as to hit the subscribe button, notification if you want to, that way you know when my videos are out. It's always a privilege to be able to come into your house and know that you take a little bit of time out of your day to spend with me. Thumbs up, thumbs down, completely optional. I don't monetize. I have no intentions at the moment of monetizing, at least not anytime soon. I just want to document what I do. So, chicken noodle soup. It's fairly easy. Like I said, it's from scratch. Everything we got here, though, you could easily obtain at the grocery store, already pre-done. Yeah, pretty much everything here. So, that being said, let me move the camera down, and we will take a look at what we got for ingredients. You know, this isn't going to be a tough one. It does have a few parts, but, you know, there's always variations on a theme that you can do. So we'll come down here. I know you're thinking to yourself, that's a lot of stuff. Not really. I mean, it is, but it's not. We've made a lot more complex dishes together. So things we're going to need for this dish before we get started. We're going to need some chicken thighs or chicken breasts. I got some of both. I've got 5 chicken thighs sitting here and a chicken breast. I bought these thighs boneless, skinless. Now, you could do bone in and skinned, but you'll want to take the bone out at some point. And I'll tell you when you would want to do that. But I buy mine boneless, skinless, and the reason why you'd want that skin is we're going to sear these in the bottom of this pot. You know, basically we're going to brown the meat a little, and the fat that's on there will give it all kinds of flavor. But the reason why I can get away with not doing that is the chicken broth I'm using is homemade. It's already got a ton of flavor in it, and I don't, in my chicken noodle soup, I don't need that extra. I mean, you can never have too much flavor, but I'm okay without it. So you also need some olive oil or a high temp oil, doesn't matter which. I'm using olive oil. By the way, the California Olive Ranch olive oil was rated best olive oil to use for everyday cooking. You will also need about a tablespoon of minced garlic. Now you can buy minced garlic, or you can buy whole garlic and mince it yourself. I use a garlic press to mince mine, but about a tablespoon of garlic, and all these ingredients you can add to, take away. You know, it's up to you. A couple bay leaves. We're going to need, I'm using a half a teaspoon of rosemary and a half a teaspoon of ground thyme. If you've got fresh thyme available, that will work also. But I would up it to a teaspoon of fresh thyme if you're going to do that. The powdered and the dried thyme, or dried spices in general, for the most part, pack twice the flavor, and excuse me. that a fresh does. So half a teaspoon of each of those. And then I've got over here in this bowl right here, I've got 4 stalks of celery that I've just chopped up. I cut them. I cut the ends off of them, cut them in half, and then cut them in half again. So I had 4 pieces per each stalk, and then I just chopped them up. And I did the same thing with my carrots, and I've got 4 carrots in here also. Then you will need a chopped up onion. Now, I mean, these, cut them as big and small as you like. You know, whatever suits you or your family, or, you know, whatever you guys like. You know, you know what you like, you know what you don't. And these are just, I mean, they're not fine diced, but they're chopped up pretty solid. You know, and then the last things we'll need, normally, okay, so if you've got vegetable stock or you like vegetable stock, I am putting 2 cups of vegetable stock in, 5 cups of chicken broth, and just 1 cup of water. You can also just do 6 cups of chicken stock and 2 cups of water and be okay. But that's it. That's our ingredient list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my pot turned on so it's warming up, and I'm going to get this oil. I'm just going to put about a tablespoon of oil in there on the high end. You don't need a whole lot. And then I'm just going to go ahead and get the chicken frying after that. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get this chicken seared up, get a nice color to it, get some flavor down in the bottom of that pot with the oil and the chicken. And when I come back, we'll move on to the next step. All right, see you here in just a second. Okay, so we've got the chicken nice and, yeah, this has got some color to it. And what we're looking to do is get the little bits to stick to the bottom. But, I mean, it's got some nice brown to it. But we don't want to cook it all the way through because we're going to let it cook inside the in the soup. So we'll go ahead and get these pulled out real quick. You know, and you see how we got that, all that flavor down there in the pan? If you can't see it, hold on a second and I'll show you. But see how we got the bits down there in the bottom of the pan looking nice and ready to go? We'll turn that down a little bit so it'll quit spitting at us. And the next thing we're going to do is just add our onions in. And we're going to get some flavor on these. Get some of that chicken flavor on those. Let these onions sweat out a little bit. And we're going to add our garlic. Alright, so we're going to let these saute up in a little bit of fat and oil and chicken bits in here. Let this go for 3 or 4 minutes, not very long, just until your onions start to go a little translucent and, you know, get a nice sauteed look to them. All right, well, I'm going to get these together and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we got those nice golden, a nice light golden brown. Now, I did not mention when you're sauteing this up with the garlic, keep it moving just because you don't want your garlic to burn. It turns bitter if you burn it. All right, so now I'm going to add my vegetable broth. I'm going to add my chicken broth. And if you've never made your own chicken broth, you really should. You'll never use store-bought again. But if all you can do is store-bought, it's all you got time for, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You do what you use what's best for you. And then we'll throw our water in there. So now we've got all our broth in there and set. We're going to add our bay leaves. Put those in there. We're going to add our rosemary, our thyme. And then I am going to take some salt and pepper. Now, salt and pepper is an ingredient. You're going to want to use salt, but it's just a taste. So I'm going to, put a good solid pinch in there to start. My chicken broth has already got a little bit of salt in it from, the way we make it. And then I'm going to throw a little bit of pepper in there. A good healthy pinch of pepper. I'm going to venture in, it's right around 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper and 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of salt. and we're gonna get that mixed up. Now you're saying to yourself, Brian, that's awfully dark, and it is. Part of that is because my chicken broth was dark, and it's because it's a really rich chicken broth. When you make your own, there's just so much more in that broth than there is otherwise. Yeah, all right, so now we've got all that in there. Now we'll place our chicken back in there. And we don't have to tear it up or anything like that. We'll put it back in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring this up to a simmer. So it's just lightly boiling. And then we're going to let that simmer for about 30 minutes with the lid on. Oh, I forgot 2 ingredients. I am always doing that. I have no idea why. Yeah, and you want those juices in there. There's nothing wrong with those juices. All that does is add flavor. We want to put our carrots and our celery in there. And then we're going to bring this up to a simmer. Not a hard boil, not a big boil. Just a nice simmer. And we're going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes, like I said, with the lid on it. And then once we get that simmered, we can move on to the next step. So I'll see you here after 30 minutes is up. Okay, so we've been 30 minutes letting this cook now. Now, one thing I didn't mention I guess I should have, was you can, let's say there's not enough, as you're cooking it down, getting the chicken to cook, you're going to lose some liquid in there, and if that's the case, it's okay to just add water into it to bring it back up, or if you don't think there's enough, you can add water to it, or chicken broth, or whatever you like. So all I'm going to do now is first I'm going to take the chicken out, throw it in this bowl, and I know you're saying, why would you want to take the chicken out of the chicken noodle soup? Well, A, we don't have the noodles in it yet. B, we want to it's cooked and it's tender, see, cooked and tender, but we want to shred it up. So, and in order to shred it up, we could do it one of 2 ways. We could just let it sit in here until it falls apart, but then that leaves the fat, what fat is on these, because even boneless, skinless chicken will have fat on it, and we don't need that. Or we can take it out and we can get the fat off of it, because it won't take 2 seconds to shred this. It's so tender. Well, it won't take but a minute. 2 seconds is kind of an exaggeration, but just a minute or 2 to shred it. And some of it's already fallen apart into the soup. Now you're saying that the soup looks a little dark, and once again, part of it is the vegetable broth, but the other part of it is because the chicken broth is dark. So your chicken noodle soup might be a little lighter in color, altogether. But while I'm shredding that up, I'm gonna go ahead, and this is about 3 cups of, I'm using Amish noodles. You can use whatever kind of noodle you want. A classic chicken noodle soup will have egg noodles in it, but whatever noodle it works for you. But I'm gonna go ahead and put those noodles in there, and we'll get those going. My noodles are going to take, just follow the instructions on your noodles. But I know my noodles are going to take about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. So what we're going to do, and the longer you leave them in there, the poofier they're going to get. And it goes with any kind of noodle. So when I come back, we'll put the chicken back into the noodle soup and give it a shot and see how it tastes. All right, see you here in just a second. Okay, so when I got the noodles boiled, I boiled them in the broth for about 8-9 minutes. I got the chicken all shredded up, pretty fine. And all I did to shred this chicken was just take 2 forks and pull it apart. Where we let it cook in that broth, not only did it flavor this chicken with the broth, but it also cooked it and made it tender enough to shred, which is nice. So now all we gotta do is just add the chicken back in. Our noodles are done. The broth is done. the vegetables are softened because where we've been cooking them in the broth, we'll get that all mixed up. We're gonna pull our bay leaves out of there. That's piping hot. They have done their job. Now with the bay leaves, make sure you pull these bay leaves out. See how they're all kind of withered now and not nearly as beautiful as they were in the beginning. You cannot eat bay leaves. Now, the reason why you can't eat bay leaves, they're not poisonous, but the leaf doesn't break down in your belly. So you gotta, you want to watch eating them, because if you eat one, like I said, it won't kill you directly. It's not as poisonous or anything, but it can tear your insides up because those sides are sharp enough to hurt you. So right there is our chicken noodle soup. I will make us a bowl of it real quick and show it to you in the bowl. Now tonight we're going to have these. I'm just going to serve it with a side of crackers for those who like crackers in their soup, and some bread with butter. Soups and stews, I mean, you could have other stuff with them, like a sandwich. You can make a sandwich with it. But for the most part, at least here, just bread and crackers. Or just bread, or just crackers. I mean, depending. And there's enough in there that tomorrow we can have it again for lunch. I don't know how well this would freeze just because of the noodles. But, if you made it without the noodles, and if, like, say I made a double batch of this, I could, freeze half of it before I put the noodles in it, just separate it, and then use the other half to put noodles in to eat, right away. But there is our soup. Let me get you down a little lower so you can get a good look at it. You'll have to excuse my soapy water. But there we are, right there. I think it looks amazing, and it smells fantastic. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't taste not bad. Now, I was telling Chris when I was tasting it for salt while it was cooking, the vegetable broth was a new addition for chicken noodle soup for me. So I don't know if it's something I will do again. What I was hoping to do, or at least put that much in it, I may back it off, because I just really was hoping to enhance the flavors of the vegetables that were in here along with the chicken. I mean, I know the chicken is the rock star, but I didn't. I wanted to give it a good balance, and I did add a little more salt to it. But you add or as much salt or as less salt as you want. But you will need some salt. It just depends on what kind of broth you use. Now, if you don't have homemade broth, that's fine. You can buy the 1 quart box broths. Those work just as well. And you could do all chicken broth and no water. Although I think I wouldn't. I would just go ahead and do 6 cups of broth, 2 cups of water, any broth of your choice. Like I said, we haven't tried this yet, so I don't know for sure. But you can, I mean, there's lots of ways you can play with this. I just wouldn't do all water, but depending on the broth you use, you might use a better than bouillon or a chicken bouillon cube. If you use those have a lot of salt in them, so you may not want to put any salt in it. It just really depends on how you do it. But this is how we do it at our house. The only thing that was really new in this was the addition to the vegetable broth. I really just wanted to try it, see how it works. That's the beauty of cooking, is experimenting and trying. So, hey, I'm gonna shut my mouth and we're gonna give this a taste. That actually is really good with chicken or with the vegetable broth. I think I would back it off a little bit. I think it does maybe need a little more salt. Other than that, I would make this again. The vegetables are tender. You can still taste the rosemary and the thyme, and that bay leaf is bay leaves are amazing. There are some people that say that it doesn't do anything for your food. I'm here to tell you it's wrong. Bay leaves add the coolest flavor. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it tastes like a bay leaf. To dishes. We use it when we make spaghetti sauces and every. I'm getting a line to form. Waiting on supper. They're hungry, and everybody likes homemade chicken noodle soup. So anyhow, try this. It's good. It's packed full of flavor. We'll just salt to taste from here. But it does have enough salt in it to bring out the flavors. I just think it needs a hair more, at least in my thought. Anyhow, try this. Let me know what you think. Hands down. I think you'll like it. You know, even if you don't use the vegetable broth and you just use chicken broth and water or all chicken broth. If you do try it, let me know. If you like it, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. I'm game for anything. Like I said, always like comments. You know, I like that brief conversation. You know, I wish we could do a longer conversation, but we can't. So, that being said, I'm going to go have dinner with the family. Some chicken noodle soup and bread. I hope you do the same. I love you. I love you very much. Tell somebody else you love them and you love them very much. It's going to make their day a whole lot better. It's going to make you feel better. All right? It makes you feel good inside. I know it does when I tell you. So, until tomorrow when we do pumpkin cookies, have a great night. All right? I'll talk to you later. Love you. Bye.